I've always wanted to have sex with my cousin. I love her backside, her shape, her body structure, her figure. What I didn't know is that my brother had the same intention. So this is the story of two brothers, Carl and Rick, and their cousin, Carol. And this is how these two brothers ended up assaulting their cousin. Let's dive right into it. And if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this keeps you aware, keeps you educated, keeps you focused. You pay attention to patterns on your family, and you know what to do when things are about to go south. Let's dive right into it. So I'll be reading through the story as we do these days. She thought she was safe. She was with family, two people she had known her whole life. But on the 9th of June 14th, Carol walked into that house as a cousin. She left as a victim. And the worst part, they smiled at breakfast the next morning like nothing happened. Before we go deeper, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. I personally want to know how far these stories travels. Okay, now let's dive in. Carol, she's 20 years old, quiet, respectful, close to her family. She grew up calling Carl and Rick her big brothers. Carl was 24, Rick was 22. Sunday dinners, family birthdays, Christmas photos together. Their mothers were sisters, very close. The families visited often. Carol trusted them. No fear, no suspicion. That trust would be against her. It was supposed to be a simple visit. Carol had just finished exam. She went to stay with her aunts, right, for a few days. Her aunt had traveled for work. Only Carl and Rick were home. She didn't see danger, she saw family. But later, investigators would say that that decision changed everything. Carol had looked forward to this visit. She would be stressed with finals. The idea of spending time with her cousins felt comforting. She remembered playing board games with them when she was younger. She remembered Rick teaching her how to ride a bike. She remembered Carl helping her with math homework when she struggled in middle school. These were the memories she carried with her when she packed her overnight bag. These were the reasons she never questioned the invitation. Her mother had even encouraged her to go. Take a break, she would say. Relax with family. You'll be working so hard. And so Carol went, believing she was walking into a place of rest and safety. That first evening felt normal. Movies, food, laughter. But small things felt off. Carl kept offering her drinks. Rick kept asking personal questions. Do you have a boyfriend? Why are you still single? She laughed it off. She thought they were joking. She didn't know they had been planning that night differently. The questions became more frequent as the evening wore on. Carl mentioned something about how pretty she looked. Rick joked about how she'd grown up. Carol felt a slight discomfort, but pushed it away. They are family, she told herself. They are just teasing. But there was something in Carol's eyes when she handed her another drink. Something she couldn't quite name. Something that made her stomach tighten just a little. She took the drink anyway. She didn't want to seem rude. She didn't want to make things awkward. That's what victims do. They ignore the warning signs because they don't want to believe the people they love could hurt them. Exactly. They make excuses. When they see signs, when they see patterns, or when they get that clue or just feel awkward, they tend to just blow it off. They tell themselves, no, it's nothing. No, I'm overthinking it. Or it's their family, they can't hurt me. You see? Pay attention to signs, to signals, no matter how trusted these family members are. I'm not telling you to be extra cautious or to overreact. All I'm saying is, when you hear stories like this and you see things happen in some families, just be vigilant. It's as simple as that. Okay, let's proceed. Around 10:47 p.m., her phone battery died. Rick said, use my charger upstairs. Carl turned the music louder downstairs. Small moves, but very calculated. Carol walked upstairs alone. She never imagined what would happen next. The house suddenly felt bigger, quieter. She walked down the hallway towards Rick's room, her dead phone in her hand. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet. She could hear the muffled sound of music from downstairs. She found the charger on Rick's nightstand and plugged in her phone. She sat on the edge of his bed, waiting for it to power on. That's when she heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, coming up the stairs. Minutes passed, then footsteps in the hallway. She felt uncomfortable, outnumbered, trapped. What happened in that room will later be described in court, not in details, but enough to prove one thing. This was not a misunderstanding. This was planned. Carol would later tell investigators she froze. Her body stopped responding to her brain. She wanted to scream, she wanted to run, but fear has a way of paralyzing you, especially when the people hurting you are people you've loved your entire life. The door opened, both of them entered, and in that moment, Carol knew this wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a mistake. They had planned this. See? This well. Let's proceed. Morning came. Carl didn't eat breakfast. She didn't talk much. Carl joked like nothing happened. Carl joked like nothing happened. Rick avoided eye contact. She wanted to leave, but she felt frozen, ashamed, confused. Victims often blame themselves first, even when they did nothing wrong. Exactly. You see this part, I've said it countless times. These victims tend to feel like it's their fault. They first take the blames, and if you are a victim, you're a survivor watching this, it has never been your fault. You are not the one to be blamed, right? You are not the one destroying your family if you speak up. You are not the one causing chaos in the family. That predictor, that uncle or whoever it is that assaulted you, crossed the line the day he actualized that thoughts in their mind. How could you do this to your own cousin, to your own blood? Carol sat at the kitchen table, staring at a plate of eggs she couldn't touch. Her body ached, her mind raced. Carl was talking about a basketball game. Rick was scrolling through his phone. Everything was normal, everything was fine, except nothing was fine. Carol felt like she was watching herself from outside her body, like she was trapped in a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. She excused herself and went to the bathroom. She locked the door and stared at herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked the same, but everything inside her had shattered. 2 days later, she told her best friend, crying, shaking. Her case is even, thank God she spoke up. 2 days later, I've covered cases of survivors who didn't speak up even after years of the assault. In fact, the moment they finally had the courage to speak up, people tend to not believe them. Exactly. They'll question, logic. People tend to bank on logic on situations like this, and most times logic doesn't work. If people expect you, if you are being assaulted, you should scream. Why not just scream? Why did you shout? Why didn't you call the police immediately? Why did you? But they weren't expecting this. This wasn't a robbery or a stranger. This is family, right? They were not expecting it. These survivors were not expecting it, so you don't expect them to act a certain way. Please, we need to know this. Thank God she spoke just after 2 days. Okay. 2 days later, she told her best friend, crying, shaking, barely able to speak. Her best friend said 3 words: "You need help." That message would start everything. Carol had been sitting on her bedroom floor when she called her friend Jessica. She couldn't hold it anymore. The weight of what happened was crushing her. Jessica listened in silence as Carol choked out the words. When Carol finished, there was a long pause. Then Jessica's voice, steady and firm: "We are going to get through this, but you need to tell someone. You need to report this." Carol was terrified. What if no one believed her? What if they blame her? What if he tore the family apart? But Jessica stayed on the phone with her for 3 hours. She didn't let Carol talk herself out of it. She didn't let Carol minimize what happened. She just kept saying, "This is not your fault," and eventually Carol believed her. What a friend. What a friend. What a friend. What a friend. If you have a good friend, trust me, it's a big bonus to you. A big bonus. Police later found messages between the brothers. Rick had texted Carl 3 days before Carol's visit. Tonight is the ninth. Carl had responded, "She trusts us. Easy." That was the moment investigators knew this wasn't a mistake. It was premeditated. Exactly. The detective who found these messages would later say in court that his hands shook when he read them because it proved what Carol had been saying all along. This wasn't opportunistic, this wasn't spontaneous. They had discussed it, planned it, waited for it, and when the opportunity came, they executed their plan without hesitation. The messages were still on Rick's phone. He hadn't even bothered to delete them. That's how confident they were that they would never be caught. I need to pause for a second. If you believe family should be the safest place, I need to drop a comment. Comment family now in the comment section. Or comment family should protect. That's the right thing. Comment family should protect. Let's raise this awareness. Now let's proceed. When Carol told her mother, she didn't believe her at first. They are your cousins, they wouldn't do that. That hurts almost as much as the crime. But medical evidence supported Carol's story. The truth was getting harder to deny. Carol's mother sat on the couch, her face pale. She kept shaking her head. No, no, this can't be true. Sometimes, when we are faced with the truth, we tend to deliberately not believe it. Not because we don't want to believe it, but because the pain of realizing this actually happened is even worse than the crime itself. Imagine, this wasn't strangers. Not that it happened when she was in school or when she was in a park or when she went to see a movie, right? This was family. Disgusting. She kept shaking her head. No, no, this can't be true. Carol's aunt, the mother of Carl and Rick, called Carol's mother that same day. She was furious. How dare you accuse my sons? She screamed. They would never do something like this. Your daughter is lying. The family split down the middle. Some believed Carol, some didn't. Some stayed silent, too afraid to take a side. Carol's father didn't know what to believe at first, but when he saw the medical report, when he saw the text the police had recovered, something broke inside him. He went to his sister's in-laws house and confronted Carl and Rick. They denied everything. They called Carol a liar. They said she was trying to ruin their family. Carol's father left that house and never spoke to his sister's in-law again. July 2nd, 6:14 a.m., police knocked on the door. Carl was arrested first. Carl was arrested first. Rick tried to deny everything, but their phones told a different story. Search history, messages, deleted chats, the case was building. The officers read them their rights. Carl stayed silent. Rick kept talking. He kept saying it was a misunderstanding. He kept saying Carol wanted it. The detective looked him in the eyes and said, "We have your messages. We know you planned this." Rick's face went white. He stopped talking. At the station, forensic analysts went through their phones. They found more than just the planning messages. They found searches, how to make someone unconscious, how to delete text messages permanently, what to do if someone accuses you of assault. The digital trail was damning, and it was all timestamped, all dated, all proof. Nice work. Nice work by the detectives. Carol had to testify, facing them, telling her story again. Her voice broke, but she didn't stop. That moment was powerful, not because she was strong, but because she refused to stay silent. The courtroom was packed. Carol's mother in the fourth row, holding her hand before she took the stand. Carl and Rick sat at the defense table, both dressed in suits. They looked like normal young men, respectable, clean cuts. That's what made it worse. Carol took the stand. The prosecutor asked her to recount what happened. Carol's voice was barely above a whisper at first, but as she spoke, her voice grew stronger. She described the night in detail. She described how they cornered her, how they ignored her when she said no, how they acted like nothing happened the next morning. The defense attorney tried to discredit her. He brought up the fact that she would had a drink that night. He suggested she would misremembered. Carol looked him straight in the eyes and said, I remember everything. The jury was silent. Some of them were crying. The jury took 5 hours, then came back. Guilty. Both brothers were sentenced to prison. Their futures ended in that courtroom. Beautiful. Kudos. But Carol's silly journey was just beginning. When the verdict was read, Carol's mother collapsed in tears. Relief, grief, validation all at once. Carl and Rick showed no emotion. They just stared straight ahead. The judge addressed them directly. You violated someone who trusted you, someone who loved you. You planned it, you executed it. You showed no remorse. Carl was sentenced to 12 years. Rick was sentenced to 10 years. The courtroom erupted. Carol's aunt screamed that the jury got it wrong. Carol's father had to be escorted out because he lunged towards the defense table. At least the judge had passed the right verdict, I believe. There was no need lunging towards the defense table, but I understand him, okay? I understand that feeling. Carol just sat there, tears streaming down her face, holding her mother's hand. It was over. The legal battle was over, but the emotional battle was just beginning. The family split in two. Some supported Carol, others stayed in denial. But Carol started therapy. She went back to school, slow steps but forward. Thanksgiving became unbearable. Christmas was cancelled. Family gatherings that once brought joy now brought pain. Carol's aunt refused to accept the verdict. She still insists her sons were wrongly convicted. She cut off contact with Carol's side of the family completely. Carol's grandmother, who had always been the glue holding everyone together, passed away 6 months after the trial. Wow. May her soul rest in peace. So family members blame Carol for the stress that led to her death. Others blame Carl and Rick. The family that once took photos together, that once celebrated every milestone together, was fractured beyond repair, and Carol carried the guilt, even though she knew logically that none of this was her fault. Exactly. If you're a survivor, forgive yourself. Step number one, forgive yourself. It is not your fault. It has never been your fault. Okay? Therapy was hard. There were days Carol didn't want to get out of bed. There were nights she couldn't sleep. Flashbacks, panics, nightmares. Her therapist told her healing isn't linear. Some days you feel strong, some days you feel broken, and that's okay. Carol started journaling. She started painting. She found ways to express what she couldn't. She found ways to express what she couldn't put into words. She joined the support group for survivors of family violence. Hearing other people's stories made her feel less alone. Beautiful. She realized she wasn't the only one carrying this kind of pain. She realized that survival looks different for everyone. For some, it is speaking up. For others, it is staying silent. For Carol, it was reclaiming her voice. She started speaking at events, sharing her story, not for attention, not for pity, but to let other survivors know they are not alone. Exactly. We are telling these stories majorly for educational and awareness purpose. If you're a survivor out there, you're not alone. And if you've not spoken up, just do so. It may be your best friend, it may be your pastor, your priest, right? Just tell someone, confide in someone. You don't need to carry the whole weight alone, and you don't need to carry it forever. Even now, years later, Carol asks herself questions. Could I have prevented it? Should I have seen the signs? Why didn't I scream? Why didn't I fight harder? Her therapist reminds her that these questions come from a place of trauma. The brain tries to make sense of the senseless. It tries to find control in a situation where there was none. Carol knows intellectually that none of it was her fault, but knowing something and feeling it are two different things exactly. She still struggles with trust. She still has moments where she questions people's intention. She still flinches, wow, when someone gets too close. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean the pain goes away. It just means learning to live with it. learning to carry it without letting it destroy you. Carol's case isn't unique. In fact, it's more common than most people realize. Most sexual assaults are committed by someone the victim knows. Exactly. And a significant percentage of those are committed by family members, cousins, uncles, brothers, stepfathers, the people who are supposed to protect you, the people you are taught to trust without questioning. That's what makes it more devastating. It's not just the physical violation, it's the emotional betrayal. It's the shattering of everything you believed about safety and love and family. And it's why so many victims never report. Because reporting means facing disbelief, it means tearing families apart, it means being blamed for ruining everyone's life. Carol knew all of this when she decided to come forward, and she did it anyway. That's courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the mastering of fear. Right? That's courage. Carol's mother carries her own guilt. She keeps asking herself how she didn't see it, how she didn't protect her daughter. She replays every family gathering in her mind, looking for signs she might have missed. She blames herself for encouraging Carol to visit that weekend. She blames herself for trusting her sister's son. The relationship between Carol and her mother became strained for a while, not because of anger, but because of shared pain. They were both drowning, and neither knew how to save the other. It took months for family therapy for them to start healing together. For Carol's mother to understand that she wasn't responsible for what Carl and Rick did. For Carol to understand that her mother's initial disbelief came from shock, not from lack of love. They are closer now than they have ever been, but it took time and it took work. In prison, Rick and Carl maintain their innocence. They tell other inmates they were set up. They say Carol lied. They say the evidence was planted. But the other inmates know word travels fast in prison, and crimes against family, especially crimes like this, don't go over well. Carl was attacked twice in his first year. Rick stays isolated, avoiding interaction with other prisoners. They write letters to their mother, begging her to keep fighting for them. She does. She's hired multiple lawyers, she has filed appeals. All have been denied because the evidence was overwhelming, because the jury got it right. But a mother's love, even for a guilty son, is a complicated thing. Exactly. This case was built on digital evidence, text messages, search histories, deleted chats recovered by forensic analysts. In today's world, criminals leave digital footprints everywhere, and those footprints can be the difference between a conviction and an acquittal. The messages between Carl and Rick were the smoking gun. Without them, the case would have been much harder to prove. Exactly. Those texts, those plans, those arrangements, the fact that they did it, they chatted online, probably on WhatsApp. It's alright. It would have been Carol's word against theirs. And in cases of sexual assault, that's often not enough. But technology gave investigators concrete proof that couldn't be explained away, proof that couldn't be denied. And that's what secured justice for Carol. Wow, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. If Carol could say one thing to the other survivors, it would be this: your story matters, your pain is valid, and you deserve to be believed. She wants people to know that healing is possible. Not easy, but possible. She wants people to know that reporting doesn't make you a family destroyer. The person who committed the crime destroyed the family, not you. She wants people to know that silence protects abusers and speaking up protects future victims. Because if Carol hadn't come forward, who knows how many others Carl and Rick might have hurt. Her courage didn't just bring her justice, it potentially saved others from the same fate. No two ways about it. Cases like Carol's force us to have uncomfortable conversation about trust, about family, about the fact that danger doesn't always come from strangers. It often comes from the people closest to us. We teach children not to talk to strangers, But we don't always teach them that families can become the predators too. Period. We teach them to respect their elders, but we don't always teach them that respect doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Spot on. We need to do better. We need to have these conversations, even when they are hard, especially when they are hard, because silence is what allows this kind of violence to continue. Exactly. Speak up, right? You are not just speaking up for yourself for survival, you are speaking up for others. You are not just saving yourself, you are saving the future, you are saving potential victims. Because if these guys get away with this, trust me, they get bolder. So speak up, your voice matters. Okay, thank you for watching to this point. Follow me for more true crime family betrayal stories, and hit the like button so the algorithm can recommend these videos to others. Share it, don't forget, subscribe. Let's see you on the next story. Have a nice day.